a New York Post article, and it's titled "Why Bryan Kohberger Committed the Idaho College Murders: The Eerie Similarities to an Incel Mass Killer." So right off the bat, this kind of says that they want to talk about the motive behind why Bryan Kohberger committed this crime, and they're looking at an incel. Um, right here, it goes on to say Vicky Ward is investigated the dark, intricate Bryan Kohberger case since his arrest in December 2023, which was actually 2022. She conducted over 300 interviews in Idaho, Washington State, and the Poconos in Pennsylvania, where he grew up. Tantalizing Kohberger offered no explanation of what had driven him to stalk the house at 1122 King Road in Moscow and murder 4 University of Idaho students, Kaylee Goncalves, Maddy Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, in their bedrooms. In a report, the Idaho 4, the people closest to the victims believe all sorts of reasons for he targeted just one, Maddy Mogen. Do you believe that Maddie was, in fact, the target?
Yes, and I think it's safe to say that I know for 100% she was the intended target. We were going to have all that evidence shown to us during trial, but not anymore.
I hope that evidence does come out. Like not so much just that, but like all the evidence comes out, so that way we can break it down. I think that the biggest clue is Murphy, and I've said this a few times. And the reason behind that is, according to documents, all the bedroom doors where the decedents were at, they were left open. The backsliding glass door was left open. So this kind of starts to leave an MO for who Bryan Kohberger is as a murderer. He touches things as little as possible so that he doesn't leave DNA behind. He wrote about this in his May 2020 investigative documents, and in fact highlighted that checking the back door, checking the door of the exit, where the exited way the perpetrator may have gone, because that's most likely where they could have left DNA. I mean, this is when the person would have exhausted themselves, they would have been sweating, breathing heavy, those type of things, and so most likely you would leave DNA in those times versus when you first get there, so you leave the door open.
It's like murder 101. Yeah.
Right. And so he put a lot of thought into it. And so he goes in there, he leaves the back sliding glass door open. I believe he goes into Maddie's room first. Now, the reason behind that is because Xana is on TikTok till 4:12. Yes. And I believe that if let's just say he opens the door and Murphy is in Kaylee and Maddie's room, or in Maddie's room with Kaylee, I think that Murphy, obviously, he had no blood on him. We do know, and we've seen pictures where they've taken drywall off of the walls. So that's because of the blood splatter. So he was not in that room during the commission of the crime. I find it kind of like if Bryan Kohberger was in a situation where he opened Maddie's bedroom and Murphy bolted out. I mean, you're in a very peculiar situation, because the dog can go alert somebody else in the house. So while you're committing the crime, somebody can easily come up behind you. Right. So what I think happened is, and I think that Kaylee's room was closed because Murphy was in there. I think he goes into to Maddie's room. He commits the murders there. Then he goes into Kaylee's room to make sure nobody's in there, or whoever was in there didn't wake up. And when he opened the door, Murphy was there, and he bolts down. And when he passes by, runs right by Bryan Kohberger, he runs into Xana's room. Now, Xana's on the phone until 4:12. So if Bryan Kohberger would have gone up the stairs and gone into Kaylee's room first, and Murphy run out and then gone to Xana, Bryan Kohberger was in that house around 4:08. I mean, that's 4 minutes for Murphy to run downstairs and get to Xana. That doesn't make any sense. And so what I think happened is he went into Maddie's room first. Then he went to check on Kaylee's room to see if anybody was in there. Murphy runs downstairs. He stays up there. Now, Dylan wakes up because she also hears who she thought was Kaylee go up the stairs with Murphy, then come down the stairs and say someone's here. Now, in order for her to go up the stairs with Murphy, Murphy would have had to have come down the stairs on his own the first time.
Right.
And so this happens at 4:12. She gets off of her TikTok. She walks up the stairs, probably sees the back sliding glass door open and says, I think he's here. Somebody's here, turns around, runs towards Ethan. I think Murphy runs outside. He has to be scared because something must have happened there, because he ran outside. He didn't run with Xana to her room. He ran outside and he started barking outside. Yes. So Bryan Kohberger goes to the room. There's the altercation that you can hear from from the camera 50 feet away. Dogs
Mm-hmm.
barking outside, so that tells us the backsliding glass door had to have been open for him to have exited the house, and then for him to make entry into the house 10 minutes or 30 minutes after Bryan Kohberger had left the scene. So because of that, that tells me that he went straight into Maddie's room, and that is the room that you could see from the back area, and it was closest to the street. And so, yeah, I highly believe that it was Maddie who was the target there.
Yes.
And so
Correct.
hopefully that all makes sense.
Yes. I mean, I think a lot of that, I mean, the whole Murphy thing, yeah, I mean, it sounds very plausible. With dogs, it's just hard, even if he got some blood on his side, because there was just so much blood that it's just so hard for me to surmise that there was not a speck of blood on him, but we also know that it was a few days until he was brought in and tested properly as well, right? If not longer. It was quite a while, right?
But based on the
even,
lack of visual blood, that tells me he didn't go into that room.
Right. But also like if and the doodle's fur is a little crispier, right? So like if something dries on that fur, it flakes off very easily too. Like I have Australian Shepherds and their fur is softer, so it's more like our hair, right? And so if something dries on it, it'll kind of like if blood would dry on my hair, my hair will look a little pinkish in that area until I wash it, where a doodle's fur is a little like chonkier. So if something dries on it, sure, it might have a little pink tinge to it, or we can just kind of grab it and like pull it off and it'll be gone, if that makes sense. Cause it's like it's almost like, it's just like a thicker fiber, And so the other thing I'm thinking is, dogs are very, they're very conscious of if something's on their fur. And if Murphy had anxiety after everything that transpired that night, and if he's now like, where's my mom? And they won't wake up or whatnot. He could have just been laying there and licking, like that's what my dogs do when they're anxious. They just lick all of their areas. And what if he cleaned if it was like on his side, or I'm not saying like in his paw, because that takes more effort, but like he could have cleaned those small areas that he did kind of brush up against it, and that's forever gone.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Those are very much plausible explanations as to why he was clean and didn't have anything.
And it was a while before. I mean, I know that it was some testing, but I don't know. I can't speak on that because I don't know everything that happened. I know that there was some more intricate tests done in January, but I don't know about what was initially done.
Well, if they did it in January, it was after the arrest of Bryan Kohberger, probably after the search of his apartment.
Right.
They did collect a dog's hair.
Yes.
Yeah, they found an animal hair. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that's why they went in January to
That's exactly why, to match it. And they brought in. Yes, that's exactly why. So
now I heard that Inside Edition said it was a match, but then Bill Thompson said there was nothing of evidentiary value found in the apartment.
Right. And that's why I was telling you, why is he suddenly changing things? I mean, you even brought up a great point yourself with the Amazon card. And I said the whole thing with the computer, like where all of a sudden are we drawing this fine line of what is actual? So like, is it because the hair was inside his, I was going to say his Hoover, inside his vacuum? So do we have to be that specific when we speak now? Like, sure, it wasn't inside his apartment. It was inside his vacuum. So like, sure, the Amazon card, it wasn't a physical card. It was just the gift card number inside his computer. Like, are we like really getting this into semantics? Like, what's going on? Why is Bill being like this? It wasn't a good look. I mean, I hate to say it, but did he take a check? Like, what happened? Because his demeanor changed and it wasn't good.
Well, he did the same thing when there was the report of no stalking. Like he was overly dramatic with it, and it was like he was a defense attorney proving a point. And it didn't look good. It didn't look good then. It didn't look good in the end. And I just feel, especially like with what happened with like P. Diddy and him, there's a lot of evidence there, and he was found not guilty for a lot of
exactly. Like,
I mean,
what's going on out there? We're giving a green light.
Yeah,
in the wrong way.
Yeah. I mean, when that happens, and then you have a prosecution, and I don't want to be mean to Bill Thompson. I really don't, but it just seems like he was maybe in over his head, and it's a small community. I saw this other case here recently where it's the Karen Reed case that was retried. Apparently, the first time they had a district attorney who was lackluster, and then they brought in another guy. And even though they still lost, the difference in the approach that they had, Hank Brennan being a defense attorney and having the flash, and you could see the difference. I would have
Yeah.
felt that there would have been something there here where Bill Thompson maybe would have gotten outclassed as an attorney.
Yes, he would have. I mean, I felt also I think he had the credentials. He definitely had the years behind him. I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's true, obviously. But it just didn't seem like he had that oomph, like when he spoke, it was just like monotone. And I think people just wanted more passion. They wanted more fire, especially on the heels of Reed and seeing Alan Jackson and just seeing that, what can happen in a courtroom and how much influence that has on the jury. And now we have Bill, which we want him fighting for these families, these victims' lives. And we're kind of like, what are you doing? Say something louder, And
Yeah.
he's up there and the guy's crying. And we're like, no, come on, Alan, call me,
Right. Yeah. And
Call
I
me.
think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's one of those situations where the tearing up aspect, because of the lack of belief, I think
Yeah,
it
I
just
wouldn't be
didn't come off
surprised if
authentic,
we
even
see a
when he tried to do
retirement
something.
letter. Yeah,
Oh, I think he
he's
already
done.
has.
He
Yeah.
he has.
Yeah,
Aw.
I think he had put in that he was going to retire and that he was just going to see the ending of this case, and then he was retiring.
Yeah, and
I
he
mean,
was
I'll be
handing
honest,
everything
like,
over to the families, all the
yeah,
evidence too. Yeah.
because I think Nye and NYE, I think is his name, Nye. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
he was
I
there.
think
Yeah.
he, in my opinion, I didn't see much of the special prosecutor because he was only there for a little bit, so I can't really comment on him. But I thought that Nye was the best of them. I didn't like
Mm-hmm.
Jennings. I thought Jennings was tripping up a lot all the time, and it just like she reminded me of somebody who was unsure of herself in certain times,
Yeah.
and then she was just so monotone and talking. I
Yes.
mean, I was falling asleep too.
Yes, I
So
know. That's what I mean. Like the whole team just kind of like we just like I knew that was an issue, right? But at the same time, I just had so much faith in knowing like what I knew was the evidence that
yeah,
still wasn't out there. And I was like, I just have to hold faith. Like I know what we still have in our pockets, what's not out there. And maybe that's why they just are acting this way, because they also know that they gotta, home run on this and nothing's gonna change it, But
yeah,
please, like it's not a good look, People still want that fire and they want to hear you.
exactly. All right. So this goes on to say that Kohberger's actions before the murders bear eerily striking resemblance to another rampage killer, Elliot Rodger. Now I just realized that Rodger here is Rodger, same as Papa Roger in the way he spells his name.
Hmm.
Kind of interesting there. It says here,
Yes.
Rodger inspired the incel world Kohberger was deeply immersed in by the time he got to Washington State University to get his doctorate in criminal justice. That's an interesting thing to say, that Bryan Kohberger was deeply immersed in. Does Vicky Ward have some evidence that Bryan Kohberger was in certain chat rooms or things of that nature to come up with a statement like that?
Well, I mean, we got to remember this is an article by the New York Post,
Uh-huh.
and unless it's in quotations, I can't see the whole thing. But unless it's in quotations, it's not exactly the words straight out of her mouth, right? So they're
Well,
gonna
this is
still.
her article, ain't it? It
Is
says
she
here
write
by
it?
it says by Vicky Ward,
Oh,
published July
okay.
3rd. Yeah.
I don't see that. Oh, okay. So she did write it. Okay. Well, I didn't see that part. So okay, you got me. I'll give you this one, Daniel.
So
Let's not
she
let that
says,
happen again. I'm just kidding.
yeah. So, but
Okay.
she says that Kohberger was deeply immersed by the time he got to Washington State University. Was
Well, I
Kohberger a
think
part of
because
these chat rooms?
um immersed by the time, scroll up a little. I tried to print it and this page doesn't let me print anything.
Yeah. So he talks about Maddie in the beginning. It says he went straight to the room and to the house. And it says that he stalked the house, which police believed he was there multiple times. It says Kohberger's actions before the murders hourly striking resemblance of
the
Elliot Rodger.
incel world that Kohberger was deeply immersed in. I think what she means is like that he was realizing that he is an incel himself, that he is never going to be that likable person out there as far as like chat rooms and all that. I think what she's perhaps going by, and I can't speak on her behalf on this because I'm not the one, I'm the person that she's interviewing. I'm not the one interviewing her, you know?
Right.
So, but like, you know, we know like pages that he would visit, or like how he talked about like on his what was that, Inside Out, or like how he was in his what was it when he had he would talk about his appearance or how he feels. Yeah, was that it? Yeah. Like how he feels, like how he's just like you know, like has no feelings, or he's just a being, or all those weird things that he would talk about. His parents are just like robots. I don't remember the exact
sack of meat.
Yes, a sack of meat. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of in reflection to that sort of information that she read about, you know, seeing his online.
Because I think if they had, because obviously Bryan Kohberger was immersed in the Reddit. I mean, that's where he read his survey, right?
Yeah.
So it was, you know, to me when I read this, that Kohberger was deeply immersed in, by the time he got to watch that, that he was deeply immersed in the incel world, tells me that he bought in, and that they have some sort of evidence that he was bought into this movement. I mean, deeply immersed in.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way
yeah,
to
that is
describe
interesting. I mean, I can definitely ask her, but I'll first ask her if she wants to be on your show. And then if she says no, I can say, well, can I just ask you a few questions about your article? I can do that. Okay.
That would be great.
Okay.
And then it goes on to say, incels, for the uninitiated, are members of a movement of frustrated men, all virgins, that sprang up on 4chan back in 2014, just hours after Elliot Rodger, a privileged student in Santa Barbara's City College, committed mass murder and then suicide. The idea of the movement started with in Rodger's honor, and is that one day that the incels will succeed in their beta revolution and overthrow women. It's fucking weird.
I know. I know.
It's like I didn't even know that there was a problem that people had with women like this. Like, we need to overthrow them. This sounds like Pinky and the Brain. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
wild.
We're gonna overthrow the world. It's something of that nature. It's insane. When Rodger lost his only childhood male friend, and after a female friend called Maddie had started ignoring him, he was triggered and began to plan a diabolical end. So
Maddie. How like kind of eerie is all of that? And then he comes in calling himself Papa. Like, I'm going to show you a thing or two here, Elliot. And both of their victims that they had their eye on is named Maddie.
That is weird.
Yeah. I'm trying to pull up the article for myself over here so I can see it. Okay, got it.
Yeah, and I mean, he also talks about, like, if you look at his other stuff, XR, or even when he his Quora was Mastery, Papa, like, that definitely falls in line with something he may have come up with. Let's see.
Yeah.
This is actually really good. There's a lot of good stuff in this article. He intended his final act to be so performative that it would captivate him to global fame. The last words he wrote in his journal were, "Finally, I can show the world my true worth." Here's some of what Elliot Rodgers had to say about his Maddie in My Twisted World.
His Maddie.
Yeah. The first real friend I made in the United States was a girl named Maddie Humphreys. Maddie would eventually come to represent everything I hate and despise, everything that is against me, and everything I am against. I stalked her on Facebook for a bit. I saw that she was the exact image of everything I hated in women. She was a popular, spoiled USC girl who partied with her hot, beautiful, blonde haired clique of friends. My hatred for them all grew from each picture I saw on their profile. I mean, Maddie had a lot of young, attractive friends who are also blonde. Kaylee, one of them. It kind of fits somewhat of a mold here.
Yes, it's almost too similar. I mean, add that in, right? And then plus his survey from DeSales. There's so many things we can mirror image with him and Papa Rogers. I don't know why people still question that. I really don't. And why they say it's a FBI or law enforcement. I can't. I mean,
Yeah.
look at all this. Look at all of this. It's in this article.
Yeah. They represented everything that was wrong with this world. I would take great delight in torturing and filleting her and every single one of her spoiled, obnoxious, evil friends. Very similar.
Yeah.
See,
I
says
mean,
Bryan Kohberger. Good.
no,
Yeah.
no, I'm following you. Go ahead. This is just.
Yeah. No, I mean it's they're painting a pretty clear picture here of some possibilities. This goes on to say Bryan Kohberger, of course, had a long exhibited many incel characteristics. His father, Michael Kohberger, recently told a former neighbor, Connie Saba, that Bryan
This
wasn't
is
the
the
same.
part. Yes, this is the part that just blows my mind. Go ahead. Like
That
I
Bryan
can't.
wasn't the same person after the drugs. Now, I got a question for you. What drugs is he talking about? Is he talking about the heroin drugs or the drugs that
Yes.
he put his child on when he was younger?
I
You know,
think he's
the
talking about the
mental.
heroin.
That could be it. Could be
I
it.
really do, because then I think he's there as a parent, you don't really blame anything like medically that was prescribed by a doctor, because by then you're going to blame the doctor. You're not going to
Yeah.
blame yourself. You're going to be like, that doctor messed my kid up, right? Like if you
Yeah.
have your kid go have tonsil surgery that's voluntarily done, right? And the doctor messes that up, you're not going to blame yourself because you wanted your kid to have that surgery. You're going to blame the doctor, right? Think about
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
he's not blaming a medicine that a doctor said is going to benefit your son. He's blaming drugs that his son took that weren't supposed to be there.
Yeah. No, excellent point. Excellent point. This goes on to say both Bryan and Connie's son, Jeremy Saba, a popular athletic kid whom the young loner Bryan hero worshipped, had become heroin addicts.
Like, what is that? I'm kind of hero
worship.
worship. Yeah.
That's weird.
Like
I
that was
guess.
kind of, yeah.
I guess you remember that movie?
Yes.
No,
How
hold on,
you
hold
had
on.
the references to the movies.
Oh yeah, those two. But you
Oh,
remember
okay.
that
So
movie with
different.
the Rock and Kevin Hart, where the Rock is like
I love them together.
CIA or something like that. He was like a chubby kid. The Rock when he was in high school, then he left
Oh,
and got
yeah.
hooked up. Yeah, and he like worshipped Kevin Hart. He's like, oh yeah, the kid, golden kid. Is that what he's talking about? Like that's all he would talk about. Like, he wanted to be him. Interesting.
Maybe. That makes sense.
Both had gone to rehab, but Jeremy died in March 2021 of an overdose.
Let's remember that. I'd like to speak on that.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead. What do you think about how does that?
Because I knew about two people that passed away in Bryan's presence,
Yeah, him
and
and
both
Ashley Fugel.
heroin, yes, and both on heroin overdoses. And guess who was one common denominator that was there? Bryan. So really, like, I think there's so much more that a lot of you guys need to be looking into. And from things that I have, chatter that has come my way, I get messages, I get a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And from my understanding, they were all set to, get deposed, and supposedly Bryan had either information on who their heroin dealer was or was in fact their dealer. And they were all set to talk about this because they were in and out of rehab. There was all these problems. This was going to put them on the right track, something like that. And the day before both of these people, or within that week, are supposed to be deposed, guess what? Bryan takes them out for a little, hey, let's get high. And neither one of them come back. So, and right after that, Bryan goes to rehab. And he's Mr. I'm perfect now, and I'm on the road to recovery. So how could I have anything to do with that? Look at me. I'm, I'm in rehab. No, that's not me. I'm doing great. Everything is like kind of premeditated and thought ahead to make him look like, he would never have anything to do with something like that. That's not there. There's no way he could, almost like with being this murderer. But how could I? I'm actually a criminology student. I'm a PA. I'm going for my PhD. I could never hurt. I'm the one that studies for this not to happen. That's not me. Right. Same with this. It's that, I'm stabbing you here, but look over there.
Yeah. Well, there was an article that indicated that at one point Bryan Kohberger was a suspect in Ashley Fugel's.
Oh, he was? Okay. Well, maybe that's where it started coming in,
Yeah, it's just one article I read. I think it was a People article, and it was talking about Ashley Fugel, that she had overdosed, and that Bryan Kohberger at one point was a suspect, but they ruled it an accidental overdose after all.
Well, accidental. I mean, I have somebody close to me that struggles with heroin literally for 30 years of their life. And I don't know how they still survive, but they have also been in the presence of accidental overdoses, because guess what? All they do is kind of influence that person on how much to put in that needle. So it's that person's fingerprints all over the spoon, the rubber band, the lighter. I mean, if that's what they all used for this, not that I know, but I heard. And so it's that, it's the user's DNA all over the paraphernalia. So the other person was just there getting high with them. They didn't know how much they put into the needle to have the fatal dose. So that's why it always ends up being an overdose, an accidental overdose. And whoever else was in the room with them won't get charged unless their fingerprints and stuff is on that needle, which won't happen. They all know how to do this. It's almost like it's like a how to be a heroin addict 101. I promise you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've never done heroin either, but I scared my wife.
Neither have I. I promise you I haven't.
I scared my wife one time. I scared my wife one time because we were at the phone place, and we were switching our companies, and it was taking a while, and we were getting hungry, and we had gotten a smash burger from Sonic like a couple of times, and the first time we had it was really good. And my wife goes, "Do you want a smash burger?" And I was like, "Nah. It's like heroin. It's only good the first time." And, and then she goes, "Have you tried heroin?" And I said, "No, but I've listened to Hotel California like a lot of times. So I'm pretty sure I know what's going on."
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now everybody wants Sonic.
Right. I mean, it went and hard heroin the first time. I don't think anybody wants. I hope nobody wants heroin.
Just kidding.
Yeah. Hopefully nobody wants that stuff, guys. But yeah, that was my story of how I scared my wife. She's like, "Have you ever tried it?" No, I just listened.
She's like, "Why don't you share it with me?"
So let's see. This goes on to say that in March of 2021, that his friend died of an overdose. That was the year before Bryan moved to Washington State, and 9 months before he bought the K-Bar knife on Amazon. That's not true. He bought it on March of 2022. It was 12 months before. That's when Jeremy passed. It's okay. Everybody, it's not everything's going to be 100% accurate.
Right.
Howard Bloom wrote in, was it his book, that it was Burger King that Xana had ordered instead of Jack in the Box?
Of course, Howard found it.
And so, I mean, nobody's perfect. You know what I mean? And so I'm not trying to be nitpicky. I'm just.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. We're just because you're saying it, you want to have it correct. I understand.
Yeah. And then he goes on to say Bryan's first turn to the dark side was his mid-teens when he stole from Connie to pay for his heroin habit. Actually, it was worse than that. He phoned her when Jeremy had been arrested for the first time for a DUI and drug possession. "I'd like to go visit Jeremy in jail. When are you going?" he asked her.
This is just so manipulating. Wait till everybody hears this.
Yeah.
It will just show. Yeah.
He goes on to say she told him the time and was surprised when he didn't show up. But when she got home and discovered that someone had broken into her house and stolen her iPad, she was less surprised. She knew who the culprit was. A year or so later, he showed up suddenly in her kitchen to admit to stealing from her, and she understood immediately that what was going on. He was in rehab. Atonement was a key part of his process. Now, here's the thing, right? Look at that.
Yeah.
He had stolen. Well, this is when he first got arrested. I wonder when that was. But the thing is, he's utilizing like a situation so that he can get an opening to go into the house. You know, he kind of did the same thing with Na Young Ko and Pullman. You know, there was some.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't
Same
be
conniving.
surprised, like for like the 911 calls that were made. Not all of them were Bryan Kohberger. Like for instance, the one during the day, the daytime one was actually. I looked at the police blotter, and it was a woman who had made the call. Said that she had seen some guys standing on the roof. It was actually for Jack DeCour's house. That was
Right.
what the call was for. It was not Bryan Kohberger.
Right.
Although Dateline kind of points out that that call was made right after the girls had posted a picture of themselves outside, and that had just come after Bryan Kohberger was researching it online, looking up Ted Bundy. So they kind of made it seem like he was the one that called there. Now, I've broken it down, and in the background, there seems to be a white Elantra parked there. Now, obviously, Bryan Kohberger didn't call the 911. He wasn't the 911 caller. But what I think may have happened is he may have seen the picture and said, "Hey, these girls are outside hanging out. I'm going to go check it out and go and see them."
Right.
Parked back there and just so happened to get caught in the camera.
Right.
But what I did notice is if we go to the September, I can't remember the exact date, but there was in September, there was the 911 call at night. And the first one is the one where they call Maddie on the phone. That one is in the blotter. The next one where Xana comes out and they were called out there again, that day was removed.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That one was not there. It was completely, the entire day was removed.
That is something to keep a note of. I mean, I don't know if it matters now, but it would add to the mystery of how Bryan was trying to manipulate this.
Yeah, they sealed a lot of stuff. A lot of things were sealed. And it's the only thing I could think of as to why that morning, because the first call, it says 911 call, loud call for this intersection. It's there. And the blotter's there. It happened before midnight. It was like at 11 something. The next day is completely gone. And so, and it happened after midnight when they went back.
We do know for a fact that there were, at Jack DeCour's, they were on the roof. I actually had the picture. So like that call was legit, and just maybe it was just a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
That woman called, and it just so happened that the murders occurred too, right?
Yeah. Now,
or did she call in reference to the murders?
What do you mean?
Like I'm not familiar with that 911 call, and when somebody called and mentioned men on the roof.
Oh, that one was the one that was during the day. That was the daytime one. And that was.
And did they say it has something to do with the murders?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. So it was just.
Yeah, no, this is well before the murders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is well before the murders. This is one of the loud calls. This was August 16th, I believe. The August 16th.
I'm way off.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm way
yeah,
off.
August 16th. And there was some men on the roof. But the one on September, I want to say it was first.
Oh, then I don't think
September
he
2nd.
had much to do with, I don't know if he would even put himself in a 9, unless you're trying to see how long their recall time is. Like if somebody calls 911 to how long they take to get there. Then what?
I think what he's trying to do.
I'm following. I'm sorry.
I think what he's trying to do there isn't so much the response time of law enforcement. It's the response of the people in the house. Is everybody going to leave if police show up? Is who's going to stay behind? What is happening once police show up? What is the response of the people inside of the house? I think that's what he probably took more value out of in that scenario.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
So this goes on to say
that's awfully ballsy, though, to even have to play around with 911 and put yourself out there in any way. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I would do it with a different house. I don't know. And
you don't have to say that house. All you have to do is say, hey, I want to call. There's a loud noise. It's at the King Queen Road intersection. Right. You call private. You say that. You hang up. You know, one law enforcement's going to see it. They're not going to trace the number for that, and
Maybe
and they're
later
going to
on they could, right?
they could. I don't know about
I
the
don't know.
technology today of they
Yeah.
can go back and do that. I know when 20 years ago when I was in police, I'm kind of dating myself here.
Once
That
upon
wasn't
a time.
available. That wasn't available then, but it could be now. So
Mhm.
this goes on to say that a year after this lady got her house broken into, that Kohberger showed up suddenly in her kitchen to admit stealing from her, and she understood immediately what was going on. He was in rehab, and he wanted to apologize. It seems as if he had made a full recovery from addiction, but appearances can be deceptive. Do they
Uh-huh.
think that he was still on drugs when he was arrested?
So that's actually something that I really wanted. I've been curious about that, especially seeing what he looked like the very next morning. We can visibly see how pale he is, which is a clear, like that's how a heroin user typically looks the very next morning, or in like as they're kind of coming down from it the next day, or it's just like the half, like they call it, like half-life dividing life, like as it's like wearing off on you, you just start to lose color. And you saw his hand, like even this part, we can see like his neck down here, still a little redness. So there's
Mhm.
some indicators there for me that he's on something. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But the other thing is, I would ask, like when, I would ask certain people, affiliated or, that involved with this case, what steps did they take to try to find out his drug usage around arrest or anything, prior? Is there, what tests did they do? And I was told none, because it didn't matter. It wouldn't have gone back, the 6 weeks. And I said, but a hair sample would. And I was told that the families were told, but it wouldn't have mattered at this point.
Yeah, it would have been kind of hard to say if he was on drugs that night, if it was
Right,
that
because the
night or
hair
the day
sample,
before.
yeah, it wouldn't have really dated, like
Mhm.
given a specific date, because I guess it could tell you like a timeline, but then that could be argued. How do you know it wasn't the weekend before or the weekend after? And that's not enough to even bring it up to a panel, of jurors and it's just not enough. So it wasn't worth
Yeah.
it.
Tim Collins asked, "What is the source I'm citing?" This is the New York Post, but I'm not sure if you're referring to like the other stuff I've said. I can't really say on who my source is when it comes to the some of the things that I know. I got to keep that to myself right now. But this here goes on to say that for me, I definitely think he was on something. Now that we know what he was doing that night, and we don't have to say allegedly and stuff, this
I
guy
know.
on Saturday was up all day. Then he
Yeah.
was up all night, takes the
Yeah.
lives of 4 people, then drives
Yeah.
around for the remaining portion of the night, goes home,
Right.
goes back out to Moscow, then goes back home, talks to his parents on the phone, doesn't sleep. He's on the phone throughout this entire time.
Right.
Then he's in Clarkson, Washington. Then he's back in Johnson, Idaho, and turns his phone off for 5 hours. He's out there in the area that his phone was off the night before. And then he
Right.
doesn't get home till 8 o'clock.
I know.
I mean,
And yeah.
when did he sleep last? Friday night?
Right. And some
So
people will argue that heroin is a
it's a
drug that
downer.
makes you, yeah, but again, you have to make sure you know how that person that is telling you that information, what is their experience with it, and honestly ask them when they're giving you that information, because I truly have decades of experience with a family member. And heroin, if you're a user, and you're an established user, it is really like it's your oxygen, and sure, like right when you'll see like the videos of people taking it, and like right when it hits them, that's why you see like the people passed out in the vehicles and stuff like that. But that's like a heavy dose, but when people know their dose and know what their body can handle, it's like it's an opiate that makes you, it makes them feel like a heroine, like heroic and strong and very smart, and they can stay up all night and write books and books, and that's why a lot of PhD people that are in school for that, that's what their main drug is heroin. And it doesn't surprise me that somebody like him would even choose that, even though I know he chose it prior to even being on this path of, the criminology and all that. But I know for a fact, hard fact, that a lot of students that are in school for like very difficult things, it's not, and I know, like in my experience, it was mostly like PhD, not like to be medical doctors. It was more like psychological and stuff like that. This was how they were up all night and writing their papers and testing, and all of that was heroin.
That's crazy.
And it was a lot of professors too.
Yeah. I mean,
I
outside of music, outside of music, I have no, no knowledge of anything that what heroin does to you or any of those things. It wasn't really something that I had seen either when I was in law enforcement. It wasn't a big thing in my area back then. Now, probably so, along with meth and fentanyl, all that stuff is crazy.
Yeah.
But to me, I think that he would have had an adrenaline dump, and he would have had to have had something to get him.
And to me, that paleness is almost what that kind of reflects, is that dumping almost, and to where he's going to need another recharge. I'd be curious to find when a person's going to come out and be like, you know what, I think I'm the one that sold him that bag, or I'm his, secret plug. Something at some point we're going to hear about it, when either that person ends up arrested and they're going to be like, all right, I need a deal, and I can tell you who I've been selling the drugs to, and they're going to use this as their, little, caveat to not have such a bad, like charges against themselves.
Yeah.
We just don't know.
We don't. I'd be interested if somebody, hey, if you sold drugs to Bryan Kohberger and you want to stay anonymous, I still got to verify who you are. I can keep you anonymous.
Call me too.
I can keep you anonymous. I'll keep you anonymous. As you guys can see, I don't tell people who my sources are, and I do get real information. I get real information. And so, but if you did, reach out to me. I mean, if I can keep you anonymous, I got to verify who you are first, obviously, so you're not going to be anonymous to me. But
Daniel's over here buying bags.
I'm not going to buy anything from you.
I'm just kidding.
I wanted to clear it up before. See, people, the Proberger's probably connecting those dots. Like, oh my God, Daniel's trying to buy some dope.
I'm
something.
Totally kidding. No, seriously, if anyone's I would.
You would? No. So this goes on to say, the interviews I did revealed that no one person had a full view of Kohberger during his years getting his bachelor's and master's degrees in psychology. His fellow students at DeSales University referred to him as a ghost because he'd show up before class started, coffee cup in hand, and vanish immediately after, muttering all about the jobs he was working. So it's always been about just him. I'm doing like, so much.
Oh, poor me. Yeah. It's like,
oh my gosh.
Like what, buddy? And all you have to show for it is a 7-year-old Hyundai Elantra and a half-empty apartment? Like, get out of here. What'd you do with all your money? Oh, I know. Heroin.
Right. Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah. It goes on to say they knew nothing about him other than he was intense and had strangeness to him. His eyes looked as if they were bugging out, one classroom mate said. He was obviously on the autism spectrum. Students who hung out at Seven Sirens Brewing Company in a nearby town of Bethlehem saw a very different side of him. He was a nuisance, especially to women. I met a recent DeSales graduate who told me that Kohberger had come and sat down with him and his girlfriend, uninvited, said nothing, then followed the girlfriend around all night. That's kind of weird.
Isn't it? Like, how did he not, what made him feel so confident that this boyfriend wasn't just going to beat the crap out of him at that moment or even in the parking lot? Like, did he already have some sort of weapon on him at that point that he was like, no, I'll take care of him? Like, what? You know, who follows another woman around when their significant other is right there?
He stands like a 2-year-old. He stands weird.
Hold on, can you scroll up a little? I think we saw his button. Hold on, up.
Oh yeah,
It's
that's a dark
dark.
button.
See, told ya. I knew it was different.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah, I knew
He's
it was
weird.
different. It was darker in there. And he walks weird. See how his hands, hold on, I'm gonna stand up off the camera, but when I stand, my hands are at my mid thigh. When you stand, I bet your hands are around your thigh. When he stands, his hands stop at his hips. It's kind of weird. See how they're kind of shorter? Our hands go down, my hand goes down mid thigh to me. Down
I don't
here.
know. His hands look like or his arms.
They're
His
short.
arms are bent. His arms are bent back. He stands weird. His posture's kind of weird. I don't know.
Yeah, and he hobbles side to side when he walks. It's a weird gait.
Yeah, I've noticed that. This goes on to say it was creepy. Kohberger did this sort of thing often. The bar owners, Jordan Shrillick, told him to leave and not come back. But Kohberger, as Connie Sabin knew firsthand, was manipulative. He took his last year of his master's remotely because of COVID-19 via Zoom. He impressed one of his professors, Michelle Boger, who recommended him as a PhD student. When Kohberger got to Washington State University for the first time, people got a glimpse into the mind that was full-blown misogynistic. In class, he interrupted women students, manipulated,
Yes, this part
mansplained.
too. The winking. What?
Yeah, he eye rolled at him, winking at guys as if they must be in on the joke. That's weird. That's weird.
Isn't it?
That's just weird. And in the classes he taught, there were also problems. One time he followed a female student out of her door. And I talked about this. I said, guys, there are numerous of reports against him from women at this college. Not just this one, at the other ones, Northampton, DeSales, not so much, but I think a lot of it was because he was online. But Northampton High School and in at the University of Washington, I said that he followed somebody. He cornered another girl in their office, wouldn't really kind of let her leave. A lot of different things that he was doing. I knew that in, I think it was the high school one. He had this app. It was a war game app that he somehow got downloaded on a couple of females' phones, and that was giving him their location, kind of like Snapchat. Have you ever heard that?
No, but then one of your comments says, and the irony of him having all female attorneys. I think that's kind of funny too.
Well, that was probably Ann Taylor's doing because of the optics.
Right. Yes, that's what I mean. But no, I wasn't sure about that app. What was it?
It was a war app, Army war app game that supposedly.
Like Papa Rodger.
There you go. That's true. I didn't put those two things together, but yeah, it was an Army war game app.
I wonder what his handle was.
I do not know. I don't know that one.
Awesome to find out.
Yeah, I heard he did that. I heard he put another app on his phone that was deleting things. Did you hear that one?
Well, I do know he was, like a background thing that was
constantly
stuff.
Deleting things.
Yeah, I knew about that.
Yeah.
That's another thing of how he was always thinking steps ahead to make sure, things were being cleaned up behind him as he was committing. He knew he was doing wrong. He always knew things that he was doing were not proper. And that's why he was having these things cleaning up after him anyway. You know what I mean? Like he was already thinking that. Who does that?
Yeah,
Obviously,
you're right.
That's wild.
And this goes on to say, in the classes he taught, there were problems to the car. Other women complained of there was discriminating against him, grading them worse than men. The WSU administration noticed, and the school began to issue him warnings about his teaching position, which was funding his time there. It began to look fragile. Finally, one evening, when Ben Roberts, a classmate, reluctantly accepted a ride from Kohberger. So, I mean, that means that he was like, come on, I'll give you a ride. I'll give you a ride. Basically begging the guy to get in the car with him.
Right.
That's weird.
Right. Like, and to be able to use reluctantly, obviously Vicky had an interview with this, what was his name?
Ben Roberts.
Ben Roberts, to where he was like, he had to have asked him more than 2 to 3 times. And Ben must have felt uncomfortable at this point to continue to say no. He's like, screw it, I'll just get in the car with him. It's not that far, right?
Yeah.
But
still
why
weird.
was Bryan so adamant? Why did he need the company of him?
I wonder if he
Because
was
of the
athletic
loner.
and in sports. Yeah, maybe he was hero
Ben
worshiping.
Roberts?
Yeah, maybe he was hero worshiping or whatever it was
I
he was doing to
mean,
the other guy.
you're right. It's, you know, it's a good point. It's valid, you know.
Yeah. And
I
so
bet you're on the right path.
so Ben Roberts said that the guy laid out what he really felt. He told Roberts in a conversation that went on for hours. That's weird.
So
An
it went
hour.
from giving him a ride, right? A
Yeah.
classmate. So it has to be in that vicinity. And like even from the college to where Bryan's apartments were for like, because I drove it myself and it was 10 minutes, maybe
Yeah.
15. But now they're in the car together for hours. What are
Yeah.
they doing?
Well, apparently Bryan Kohberger is telling him that women belonged in the kitchen and the bedroom, not in the classroom. And he told Roberts that they were easy. He could walk into any social gathering and have any of them he wanted sexually. Roberts told me, which is Vicky, he just wanted the conversation to stop. I mean, this went on for hours. That's interesting.
Hours. Yeah, but it's like like to me, it's so interesting. Like I would love to find this Roberts guy. Maybe we can get him to talk, but like something had to have kept him in that car to make him be like, hey, is it okay if I don't drop you off and we just kind of drive around? What was that? What is some ideas that would make you as a man say okay to another man that says you want to drive around for a little bit? Bless you.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
I don't necessarily think they were driving around. He may have parked outside of his house and just sat there talking to him.
Like an example for me, to be completely honest, I don't know what, is allowed to say here or not, but like for me, I would think maybe they're smoking a bowl and he's like, hey, and now he thinks he's cool because he's kind of with, a member of kind of authority and he feels bad to say no. You know what I mean? So this kind of buys you some time to get into these deep conversations.
That's possible.
I kind of think, I don't see what else it could be. Otherwise, it just kind of seems like he's holding him hostage. I mean, Ben Roberts would have to say, I engaged in this conversation too. Otherwise, right now, he makes it seem like he was sitting in this car being held hostage and Bryan talked for 2 hours about, how women are just there for men's desires, right?
Pretty much.
I don't know. Ben is trying to make himself seem not, a party in this, but he was, and that's okay. Just be honest about it, Don't make yourself look like an equal in this, because right now it's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Or a hostage.
Yeah. Real quick, Miss Dog Lover comes with $4.99. Such a waste of 4 beautiful lives and so many others ruined. Prayers to everyone, 100%. Midwest comes in with a $1.99 super sticker. Thank you so much. What does Elena know about or think about the supported friend who came out defending Bryan? Supposed friend. Have you heard about this one dude that supposedly is Bryan's friend and defending him?
No, well, remind me of it.
He looks like he's 40. He's probably friends with that Dot lady who was also like 40.
Dottie!
That she was friends with like Dylan or something like that. That's probably the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd
some
have
old people that think they want to that they're in
that's
college.
Right. They're like baby bride like that. Like I'd have to look into it. I honestly, I can't speak on it if I haven't seen it because I don't think that's fair. But once I do, I'll send you a message and you can maybe let the one of your followers know.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yes. So this goes on to say Kohberger studied Elliot Rodger long before that tirade. Did he? I'm not saying that's not
before that tirade.
Right, but was Elliot Rodger part of DeSales? Let me see. It says when he was a psychology student at DeSales University, he was part of a course about serial killers taught by leading criminologist Dr. Kathleen Ramsland. Did Dr. Ramsland talk about Elliot Rodger in her
I believe
studies?
so. Yeah, I believe so.
Interesting. Oh yes,
But
Dot was
we
definitely a
have to
fraud.
yeah, I mean, Brian was what, 20 when that happened, I think. But it depends on, yeah, I mean, I'm sure this is something, this is right up, this is exactly what Catherine Ramsland studies and works on. So it all makes
Yeah.
sense, absolutely.
So yeah, he studied him. Some of the words he's saying, it's kind of starting to paint a pretty picture, or an ugly picture of who this person is. Pretty clear picture. And like Kohberger, who lived in Pullman, Washington State, but could drive 10 minutes to Moscow, Idaho. Rodger also went back and forth between two college towns. As he wrote in his manifesto, in all the times I went by myself to East of Vista, none of the beautiful blonde girls showed any interest in having sex with me. I mean, is he expecting to go out
How is
there?
it, how does a girl show interest in having sex with a man, like just in public? Like, what do we do? Are we supposed to be like, like what's the sign? Like, that's so weird that a man is actually going to write about it and be like, nobody's showing interest in having sex with me. Like, well, they're not going to. You gotta schmooze them,
But
get him out on a date and this and that. Like, I'm not sure
what is
what.
he? What is he doing? Like, is he like
Exactly. You just
with
want
a
them to
sign?
fall. Exactly. He's just standing at the end of the driveway holding his what in his hand going, "Hey, here I am." No.
Yeah,
And now it's the girl's
that's
fault.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Brian's reading this going, "Yes."
yeah.
Stand
That's
together.
totally.
Yeah.
Gosh, man, these people are weird. For
I
a
know.
while, I had been deciding on whether I would exact my retribution on Isla Vista or Santa Barbara City College. When Kohberger was arrested, the police took a book from him with the underlining on page 118. Do you think it was Elliot Rodger's Manifesto? Steve Goncalves, Kaylee's dad, asked me the other night. Steve has read my book. Of course, I don't know for sure, but you do have to wonder. On that page, Rodger wrote how he came to select the date of his day of retribution. After ruling out Halloween because it was because of heavy law enforcement presence, he decided it would have to be on a normal party weekend, so to set off sometime during November. That's eerie. That's
It
eerie.
is. It is. I have a hard time thinking it's not Elliot Rodger, but at the same time, or that it's not his manifesto, but at the same time, why is that stuff out in the open in the present right at his parents' house? That's
I
what's
thought
very
that was in
bizarre
his
to me.
car.
I thought it was in his desk, but maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong on that. I thought that was in his room. One of the things they found in his room was something that was outlined open on page 118. But also
Mm,
like, so
maybe.
I could be wrong. Yeah, no, don't quote me.
I have no
But
idea,
it's still
obviously, what
something they found, and why was that out? Like, or if it was in his car, okay, but his dad was in his car. Did they not go anywhere that whole
right.
time? And yeah, I mean, it's just okay.
Yeah. No,
It's just bizarre to me.
I think it is. I have no idea what book it was. I know that there are certain books that he had access to. Now, if he was studying Catherine Ramsland or he was studying under Catherine Ramsland and she taught Elliot Rodgers, I wouldn't be surprised that the manifesto would be something that he have to study or something that he would have in his possession. We know for a fact that she required certain books from, and one of those books was BTK Confessions of a Serial Killer. And on
Yeah.
page 118, I believe it talks about how the media can, I guess, oh, man, I don't have it right in front of me, but it was something to the effect like the presence in the media or something like that can, I guess, make you relive the crime in some form or fashion. And
See,
getting
I
off
said
on
I
it.
didn't read that one. Now that one really stands out too.
It does. It does. And so,
And so maybe he was just having a couple of these, and maybe this was what he was just kind of putting a little scrapbook together. Who knows? Who
yeah.
knows? We won't know. And the whole thing also, I just want to say real quick too, when he said, was somebody else arrested? He was at his parents' house. Like, he could clearly see if there was commotion of another being arrested at the same time. And I mean, maybe he could, maybe he couldn't. Honestly, we weren't there, so we couldn't see it all. But we've seen the drone pictures. We've seen a lot of, like, I've seen the pictures. I have somebody that took pictures like hiding in the bushes. So I saw like how the cops were parked along the side and then down the line. And I
Yeah.
really think that, Bryan was sitting in the car for a bit, trying to chat up the police officer to, break him on the Mirandas. I think Bryan could have looked around and could see if there was a second arrest occurring. Do you know what I mean? So I have a hard time with him thinking it was his father at that time versus him trying to trip up the police officer, because this was something he had as one of his, now, like I think he had a list of, don't forget, if the police forget to do X, Y, Z, and the Mirandas are one of them, if they forget to read them right off the bat, you need, like Bryan saying to himself, you need to chat them up because that's going to go in your favor, down the road during, the case and all of that. So, and that's why and because when you read about that even more and get more information on it in the documents, the questions he was asking were just so ridiculous. I don't remember them off the top of my head right now, but they were almost like, because he was scared to death, but he was just asking dumb stuff, and I feel like he was just saying whatever he could to then use that to his benefit later on.
Well, I think he asked one of the officers to drink coffee with him after.
See, yes. So that's engagement. And that's considered, I'm sure like engagement to where the cop wants to hang out with him after. And that's kind of like, I can't remember what it is now, but it's like, fraternizing with a potential suspect or something. And maybe Bryan just was thinking too fast and he was trying to do too much at once, but I feel like he has a list and he had to go down it like, this can benefit me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I thought.
Yeah. To me, I don't know. I mean, because like, look at his alibi, right? It was Wawa Park. He talked about being there at some point. That was where they found Joyce LePage. Her body. She was an unsolved murder that happened at Pullman, Washington. Some people thought and speculated that it could have been Ted Bundy. When I heard that, and we see all this other stuff about how he's playing cosplay, dressing up like Ted Bundy and doing those type of things, researching him over and over again, even before school started.
Right.
He was researching Ted Bundy.
Yes.
I thought he was paying homage to Ted Bundy by saying that's where he was. To a certain extent.
I think he was sending a message to his mother.
Really?
I do. Yes. I really think she is the leader in this whole family and he always wanted to prove to her, like, yes, I may have been a problem child because I had this ASD and maybe it wasn't what you always imagined for me because you had these daughters that were the apple of your eyes and were perfect. And then here I came in and I was this, never ending storm. But when we talked about like the mom's passions, it was the true crime and it was the murders. And that's when he maybe engaged with her and she got him to calm down. So that's where they found that connection together. And he latched onto that and rode that wave. And I feel maybe there's something behind this to why he ended up doing what he did, because he wanted that stamp of approval from Marianne. I'm a worthy child to you too, Mom. Just because I'm not perfect like Melissa and Amanda, I can do something to make you think that I'm just as good too. I'll be like Bundy because you always, you thought he was amazing. You emulated him. So do the same to me, Mom. I really do.
I think you're onto something there. I'm actually going to ask Dr. Vona that. I'm going to be like, do you think this could have been some message to Mom but
yeah.
Bundy is deep in the Kohberger family. Melissa had shared something on social media that somebody had pulled up, and it was a YouTube song, and it was by some emo group, and the song was called "The Stranger Beside Me," which was the title of Ted Bundy's biography.
Interesting.
And then they have the mountain in the basement where a couple of like that same mountain that's depicted in that basement is the same mountain that I think 2 of the Bundy victims were found.
Yeah. And then also when Marianne writes about him and says like how she was pissed off that they were clapping, she uses his full name. She uses Theodore. And to me, I think that's very telling as well in the psychological realm. Like, you know, you're using his full name, where up until this point, we know, even to this day, just yourself right now, you said Ted Bundy, Ted Bundy. Nobody's saying Theodore. Who's saying Theodore? But
That's true.
Marianne, she calls him Theodore because he means something to her.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah,
see.
really.
This one
All right,
goes on
let's
to
see what else.
say, Elliot got what he wanted, infamy, and from his horrendous acts, it's an awful irony of striking parallel that he's pleaded guilty. So too has Bryan Kohberger, and that's the end of this.
Yeah. Oh,
Interesting
it's just
stuff.
unbelievable. I cannot believe that we got to this point and it's a plea. Like, wow.